Jimmy Wanjigi is still here with us. City, did you give Jimmy the proverb today, by the way? No, we didn't.
Jimmy, when I was about to give the proverb, Jimmy gave us the talk. So I listened to the talk and I figured this one, I don't want to interrupt this one because it was making sense.
Okay.
But now that we've come up for air,
Yes.
let me give you the proverb.
Please.
Our proverbs for this week come from the Republic of Congo, otherwise known as the Congo, or known as Congo Brazzaville. Okay. Right. Even without drum beats, banana leaves dance.
Even without drum beats, banana leaves dance.
The wind. The wind.
Yep.
So you're saying we are blown by the wind.
Yes.
Is that you, CT? You go with the wind.
Sometimes, yes. It's important to go with the wind sometimes.
Yeah, depending on where it's going.
All the time is a bit tricky because even the wind veins only go with the wind sometimes. No,
It means there's movement even without a drum beat.
Yes, there
without
is.
the noise.
You see, it is assumed that the dance has to go with the beat.
Yes,
But you forget that even the whistling of the wind has a beat.
has a beat.
You may not
Rhythm.
think so. Should we say it has a rhythm?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can dance to a rhythm, not
Yes, you
necessarily
can.
a beat.
Yes.
Rhythm and stuff.
How come you never have any Kenyan proverbs?
I do.
You did.
I don't hear
I
them.
do.
A couple of weeks
Some
ago.
Swahili ones.
I do. In fact, we're in Zanzibar and we had Swahili proverbs then.
Yeah.
Because
We've
they're
been in
very rich.
East-
Central Africa, Central and West Africa seem very rich in.
So, by the way, even Kenya, very rich in proverbs. Very. You see, what happens with these proverbs is this: you choose an area. Like we've been in East Africa. Now I'm moving out of East Africa, going to Central. Okay. Then when I move out of Central, then I will go to South. Then from the South, I'll go back to West. Then I'll come back to East,
And then north.
and then North.
I think when I've been here, you've always
And the
had
islands.
either West Africa or Central Africa. So I guess that's why the question.
I think. it's-
Alafu naona nguo yako. I think you're partial.
Well, you.
Anza kufaa kitenge.
Nimemzuia
All right, back to your conversation.
Yeah.
So Jimmy is unleashing things this morning. He has unleashed what everybody has been looking for. Khalif Khalifa and the Okoa Mombasa movement have been, they've even gone to court. They're
Yes.
saying we are asking the government to give us the contracts pertaining to SGR.
They are
We
doing
not
a very good
receiving.
job, very good civil
We
job.
haven't received. Now you have the contract.
Yes.
You've given us one contract. This is on the civil works construction of the SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi.
Correct.
Contract of construction signed between Kenya Railways and the China Road and Bridge, and I call it
Corporation.
China Road, Bridge, Airport, everything.
Correct.
Corporation.
Correct.
Okay?
Right.
You said there's a second contract.
There's a second contract. CT, please do the honors.
Yes, Republic of Kenya, Ministry of Transport, supply. Familiar word in Kenya? Supply. Supply and installation of the facilities, locomotives, and rolling stocks. What are rolling stocks? For the Mombasa-Nairobi Standard Gauge Railway project between Kenya Railway Corporation and China Road and Bridge Corporation. Contract document, October 2012. Yes, you're going to ask the question.
October 2012.
Yeah.
Mwai Kibaki was the president. The other one was dated what?
June 2012.
Okay.
Okay. Sawa? Now you want to know contract and agreement, seller's power of attorney. Long details. I know what you're going to ask. This contract was made the 4th of October 2012.
Okay.
All right? All right. Sign, stamps. Even seal is there. That's very good. Now let's go to letter of award, shall we? You know, I'm getting familiar with this thing. Right. Now, sum.
Who's written the letter of award?
The letter of award is written by China Road and Bridge Corporation. They are in a place called C88 Zoglu Plaza. Hey. It's a long word here.
Somewhere.
And why the GA Beijing, China. But that's exactly how it's written.
Okay.
I didn't eat anything.
You
in between.
didn't? Okay.
Yes, okay. But it's in China.
Okay.
Okay, so if you go to C88, you'll find
You'll
them.
find
Okay, right. The amount in dollars is, in billions of dollars, 1,46791,008.7.
1.4.
1,146,791,008
Right.
Alrighty.
Okay,
Okay.
that is the
Amount
of award. Then there's the acceptance.
by
For
Kenya
what?
Railway.
Sorry, CT. For what?
Supply of rolling stock.
Rolling
Supply, let me
Stones.
read it. Supply and installation of facilities. Before the Rolling Stones, there were facilities.
Installation of facilities.
Yes, installation of facilities,
All right.
locomotives, as in Gariamoshi, rolling stocks.
Yes,
For, rolling stocks,
as in.
as in stocks which are rolling. For the Mombasa Nairobi Standard Gauge Railway Project. And stop
Pause.
asking me questions, you know I can't.
Jimmy,
answer.
what are those three things? What is facilities? What is locomotives? What is rolling stock?
Well, facilities are stations.
Okay.
Not the actual stations that you see constructed, but the railway station, where it docks the mechanics.
Okay.
Every time it comes to a sort, the electrical.
The signaling
Right.
and all.
Yes.
Okay.
Then you have rolling stock. Rolling stock is all part of the locomotives, really. It's just a nice big word.
So locomotives and rolling stock.
and
are
rolling
same
stock,
thing.
it's the same thing.
It's the wagon.
It's a wagon.
It's the bogie.
Correct.
It's the bogey.
Yes.
Aye.
How much is the amount?
1.46. 1.146
$1
billion dollars.
Okay.
Nairobi, Mombasa.
It's Nairobi, Mombasa.
Right.
Yes. And exclusive of value-added tax, custom duties, IDF fees, cess, and withholding tax.
That's the same with the civil contract.
Yes, same.
No taxation.
No taxation.
No.
All right. Signed by the same individual who
Okay.
had signed before
Okay.
and addressed to the same managing director.
Okay.
Right. Now, I want you to read the first part of this is now the finance agreement
Finance agreement.
that was signed in August 2013.
What is a finance agreement?
Now, this is what puts together, and this is what this is what Makoman brought out.
Okay.
Right? This agreement.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
This is now the finance agreement to finance both the rolling stock and the civil works
Okay.
for the construction of SGR from Mombasa
Two.
to Nairobi.
So this is the document that itemizes it.
No,
In terms
just
of
the
pay
finance.
This is the one that
Just the
says where
finance.
is the money going to come
Where is
from?
it going to
The
come
money is
from?
coming from this place.
Correct. Correct.
Who is going to pay
Yes.
China Road and Bridge and blah blah
Yes.
to do this job for which they've been contracted?
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
So that you are clear that these two contracts are the ones covered
by the
by the finance agreement done in August 2013.
Ruto one.
Correct.
Okay.
Please read the first paragraph. This one. Whereas. After whereas.
Okay. Let me just mention, this is the Memorandum of Understanding on Financial Support for Mombasa Nairobi Standard Gauge Railway Project between the Government of the Republic of Kenya, represented by the National Treasury and Export-Import Bank of China.
Okay.
Whereas, Kenya Railway Corporation, herein referred to as KRC, and China Road and Bridge Corporation, herein referred to as CBC, have entered into on July 11th and October 4th, 2012.
What are the contracts?
Those are those two. Mhm.
Those two.
July and October.
Yes. The commercial contracts on civil works and supply and installation of facilities, locomotives, and rolling stocks for the Mombasa Nairobi Standard Gauge Railway Project, herein referred to as the project,
Okay.
with a total sum of US dollars 3.804 billion for the purpose of implementation of the project. The government of the Republic of Kenya is desirous to request
3 points.
Sorry, what?
3.804 billion US dollars
For the purpose of?
for the purpose of
Those two
implementing
contracts.
the project.
Is it those two contracts?
Yes, it is for those two.
So the 2.2 something and
Combined is
1.14.
3.8.
Combined is 3.804
Got it.
billion.
All right.
Are we together?
Gotcha.
As we say in Kenya? Tuko pamoja? Let me read this last one, Jimmy. Let's read it. The government of Kenya is desirous to request for financing support of China Exim Bank, which is conscious of the significance of the project on social and economic development of the Republic of Kenya, and is willing to provide financial support to implement the project after conducting a preliminary review.
Okay.
Signatories?
The signatories done at Beijing on this 19th day of
This was
August.
during President Uhuru's first visit to China.
Yes, August 2013. Mr. Henry Rotich, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury of the Republic of Kenya.
Okay.
Signature. Then Mr. San Ping, Vice President of the Export-Import Bank of China, on behalf of the Export-Import Bank of China.
All right.
Those are signatories.
Okay?
So Treasury and Exim Bank China have entered into a financing agreement.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, further to this agreement, in it, it says that 3.8 is 90% of the project cost. So that the Kenya government is to raise 10%, what they call self-raising finance, right, as its contribution.
Yeah, I'm confused by this math.
Why?
Because already those two contracts, my math shows me that it should be 3.4.
Why?
See, that one was 1.146 for rolling stock. And the other one was 2 point. Abu.
It was 220.
So it was 2.2
So 2.2 billion
plus
dollars.
1.46
Yeah.
is
Yes,
3.4.
It comes to 3.4.
So now here we are at 3.8, and the 3.8 is 90% of the total.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
confused.
Don't be confused.
1.4 plus 2.2 is.
Don't be confused
3.6.
at all.
Yeah.
Because in this contract of civil works, there is something called non-binding BQs.
Okay.
Do you know what that means?
No.
A BQ is a bill of quantities.
Yes, but non-binding.
Of the amounts that of material that is needed for the project.
Okay.
So if you are saying, for example, Mombasa to Nairobi needs 10,000 steel bars of, let's say, 100 meters,
Yep.
right? Okay?
Yep.
Steel
Bars of 100
meters.
Yes.
10,000,
Yep.
right? That becomes non-binding in this contract. Because as you go along the way, it may become
It
15,000,
may increase,
Okay.
it may reduce.
right? Non-binding normally has a clause that says, not non-binding, BQs always have a fluctuation clause that says maybe 10%
Variation.
variation.
Okay.
But this one is non-binding,
Binding.
which means as they are going along, the quantities may increase.
So the quantities are not fixed.
They are not
Yeah.
fixed.
And if they're not fixed, the cost
Then
is
also the
not
cost
fixed.
is not fixed.
All right.
Correct.
So are we providing for
what
them?
what I'm showing here is a contract that was the basis of the finance agreement, but with a non-binding BQ. So an allowance seems to have been given
Okay.
for amounts, right?
That's how we're
that
going
may
to
have
about
come later in an
3.8.
addendum, which we
Okay.
don't know, right?
So
Which
the-
we don't know.
Okay.
would you
But
say that-
normally in law, in our laws of Kenya, you cannot vary a project more than 10%. Right? You cannot. But here it became irrelevant.
So our math, according to what's on paper in those contracts, is 3.4 trillion, $3.4 billion. The agreement is for $3.8 billion, which is a 90% component. This
Yes.
3.8 is 90%.
Yes. 90%.
Okay.
And the Kenya government is to raise 10%.
10%. What does 10% equate to?
So let's say the project is 90.8.
Yeah,
No,
90%.
3.4, 10% should have been.
3.8.
Let's say 3.8. So the
3.8.
Kenya government should have raised 3.8. Yes.
3.8 billion
Yes.
is 90% of X.
Yes.
Okay.
So 380
So what is
billion.
X?
380 billion.
Okay.
Right? Not 380.
No.
30 billion.
38 billion.
38 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Because
Okay.
we're going at
30
100. We're going at
38
100
billion.
shillings per dollar.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
At that point.
Correct.
So you're looking at about 380 billion.
It's 3.
Correct.
Yes.
3.8 times 1.9.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 38 billion.
Yes.
All right?
More or less.
Are we on the same page? Now,
It's 4 point something billion.
Now, we've extrapolated that, right? Because in our books, the debt to China Exim Bank is $5 billion. An extension of 1.2 to this going to Dukamoja. Sio Kimau, Dukamoja. All right?
Okay.
So the total to Dukamoja is $5 billion. That's the loan we took from China,
Okay.
Exim Bank.
Okay.
All right, are we on the same page?
So far.
Mombasa
Right.
too. Yeah.
So, of that $5 billion, right, we've taken the exchange rate over the period, right, and calculated, right, that total cost, right, as 475 billion shillings.
Okay.
All right, so like the 380, and then you go to Dongakundu, I mean to Dukamoja,
Yeah.
you have 474 billion shillings,
Okay.
right? So the entire rail city from Mombasa all the way to Dukamoja, okay, is just under 500 billion shillings. All right? Now, China Exim Bank, according to the debt book, did advance us $5 billion,
Okay.
which was 90%.
The debt book is at CBK.
Yes. And it's also tabulated as an item in the budget. So they advanced us $5 billion, which was 90% of the construction of the rail from Mombasa to Dukamoja,
Okay.
Naivasha.
Okay.
All right? Are we on the same page?
I was on
Yeah.
the same page, but I'm
Right.
going to have to ask, did this money find itself in the consolidated fund?
Yes.
Okay.
It landed.
This one landed.
Okay.
How it landed is by drawdowns. So I'll give you an example, a graphic example. When China Road constructs, it provides to Kenya Railways certificates of payment. Right? Kenya Railways forwards those certificates of payments to the Treasury. The Treasury pays its 10%, right?
Yep.
Self-raising finance
Okay.
on that certificate,
Okay.
and then issues a notice of drawdown to China Exim
Exim.
Bank,
Right.
which then issues its payments directly
To China Road.
to China Road, yes, to China Road, from Exim Bank, China
To China
to China Road.
Okay.
So the notices of drawdown can be seen as a debit in the consolidated fund.
Fund. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Are we together? All right?
Yep.
So we just did the math. As we keep saying, this thing is in plain sight.
Sight.
Do.
Yeah.
It's in plain sight. It's just that our very good professionals here don't do the numbers, right? This is simple math, right? So we looked at the debt and we said, were the notices of drawdown done according to the construction? We
Okay.
found, yes, they were.
So every time China Road would complete,
Would complete?
issue its certificate to Kenya Railways,
Yes.
Kenya Railways would certify that, yes, true, this has been done, forward it to Treasury.
Yes.
Treasury would pay its bid,
Yes.
forward this to Exim Bank. Exim
Yes,
Bank pays.
would pay its bid. So
Okay.
Exim Bank paid China Road in bridge in full the $5 billion.
Right.
That it did. And we, in turn, have been paying a loan repayments to that, both interest and we started principal
Okay.
years ago. All right?
Okay.
That is there. Good record. So then we audited what you call the self-raising 10% funds.
Yes.
The money that is granted by Treasury to Kenya Railways, 10% for the construction and for the locomotives.
Okay.
All right? And we did the sums. So if it was 470 billion is the Kenyan shilling value, the 10% amounts to what?
40 billion.
47,
It's 47.
47 billion
47,
shillings.
yeah.
7 billion.
It's 47 billion. But then, Jimmy, it's 470 billion is 90%. It's not 100%.
Yeah. No. This is now, we've taken 100%
Okay.
on 475.
So-
So we've taken the 5 billion
Yeah.
plus
Plus.
our
Yeah.
10% raising.
Yeah.
It comes to
So
475.
comes to this, yes. So of 475 billion,
10% is
10% is
47.5 billion.
7.5 billion.
right. So we look for the 47.5 billion. And sure enough, before Treasury issued its notice of drawdown, it had to give evidence that it had paid the 10% self-raising finance.
Right.
So we just calculated. Okay?
Okay.
And do you know what that amount got to?
47.5 plus.
No, unfortunately
75.
not. Unfortunately not.
It's less.
This one I want you to read. This is the amount of our 10% contribution.
Okay. 644 billion shillings.
Yes.
644 billion.
That's a contribution.
That's our 10%
That's the
contribution.
10%, which should have been 47.5 billion shillings.
We paid how much?
644 billion shillings. It was received by KRC, transferred to CRBC.
Okay.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
And those are in our books.
Yes.
Okay.
In plain sight.
How do we explain
And I have
this?
all the documents. All the transfers, everything. All the documents.
644, not 64.4.
No, 644 billion.
As opposed to
47.5.
47.5 billion.
Aha. We were supposed to save to send 47.5.
47.5, but ended up sending.
in,
644.
given our reputation for enormous generosity, we
decided to
decided to
send
give
10 times the
600
amount.
and how much again?
644 billion.
Okay.
Okay, Jimmy. With each certificate issued by China Road, right, and the corresponding payments, were you seeing a 10% relation?
All they do, and you know this is what I'm saying.
Because
I think if you want to talk about a crime site, it is called the Treasury. What you see is one simple line: self-raising finance for SGR construction. They don't even put. It's not called 10%.
Okay.
It's just called self-raising
Raising finance, SGR construction.
SGR construction.
Now, in your audit,
Yes.
you should be seeing. So when they're issuing a certificate, the amount of money that China Road receives from Exim should correspond 10% with the amount of money that Treasury
According
has
to who?
released to the-
According to who?
according to the
You see,
contract.
what you
everything
need to
you're
understand.
explaining.
What you need to understand is that they seem like they are different departments in the Treasury. There's one that is doing the drawdown for the loan,
Okay.
right? Saying, "Oh, I've received the certificate. Issue Exim Bank with the drawdown."
Yes.
And there is another that is paying the grant from Treasury
To Kenya Railways.
as 10% contribution, so-called self-raising finance for contribution.
And what's Kenya Railways
And-
supposed to have done with this money?
Now,
Very-
what they did,
SCRBCC.
and it's also very well recorded, they pay China Road and Bridge.
So the money they
So
receive.
China Road and Bridge received a total of 1.18 trillion shillings.
I'm confused.
644
Plus.
plus the $5 billion.
Right. That's amount the 644, Jimmy. I get it.
Yes.
This 644, when you're doing your audit and you're seeing a certificate has been issued, and then the process of the payments, at the point when the Treasury is releasing this amount, how much do they release to Kenya Railways? Were you seeing a variation, or was it a constant figure?
No, it was not constant. They're
So there
different
were-
figures.
there are different
They are
figures.
different figures because certificates are different.
Because of
They're
different
different.
stages.
So it's understood
All right.
if they're different.
But then it would be corresponding. It would be if you're receiving 100 from China Exim, right? You should be receiving 10.
Okay,
from
who
Kenya
is supposed to do this audit?
See, that's what you were doing. I'm asking what.
Oh,
what
all
you were
we
do-
did, all
when you
we
were
did,
doing it,
all we
How
did.
do you see? Were you
All,
seeing
all we did was this. What is the project cost?
five?
And how much money has been received?
Okay.
So did it receive the money from China Exim Bank? Yes, they did. Did they receive the self-raising finance
From the National Treasury?
National Treasury? Yes, they did. What were the sums?
And some.
And some. So we just did the numbers. Now, if you want us to cross audit, right? That is an exercise for the Auditor General. That's an exercise for COB. That should have been their job. What we have are the claims for the project,
And the
the
payments.
certificates, and the payments.
So total payments were 1.2 trillion.
Almost 1.2 trillion that went to China Road and Bridge for a project of 475 billion. Now, what you need to understand,
Is that we paid more from our pockets than China Exim Bank paid.
now you got it. We, Kenyans, with our taxes, finance that entire project and more. We did not even need a loan. That's the way you need to digest this.
Pana, no.
That's what you need to digest.
Pana, no.
Give us a minute.
We have to go back to this story. We have to start this story again from square one. We start again from square one. First of all, SGR equals ABCD. Then we come into contracts entered into between. We are talking about SGR today, and Jimmy has done a couple of things. So Jimmy has brought to us two contracts that were signed in 2012. This is a contract between Kenya Railways and China Road and Bridge Construction Company. One was for the civil works of building railway between Mombasa and Nairobi. The other one was for provision of rolling stock and locomotives and installing some facilities. Okay?
Plus
Plus.
the third one,
Uh-huh.
which was the finance
the third
MOU.
one was a financing MOU signed
two
in
contracts.
2013 on how to finance those two contracts.
Correct.
This was signed by the National Treasury and the China Exim Bank.
Correct.
And the agreement was 5 billion,
No, 3.8.
3.8,
Yes.
$3.8 billion for that. But then going all the way to Dukamoja in Naivasha,
Increased another 1.2.
so it became 5 billion.
Correct.
Okay. In that 5 billion, what we were supposed to do as the government of Kenya was to finance 10%.
Yes.
Of that amount.
Yes.
Yes.
And you now looked at how the payments were being made.
Yes.
Every time China Road and Bridge will hit a milestone, an agreed milestone, they
Yes.
would present a certificate of completion to Kenya
Correct.
Railways.
Correct.
Kenya Railways would confirm that indeed you have actually hit this point and you are due to be paid. They present that to the Treasury.
Yes.
The Treasury says, all right, so here is our 10%. Kenya Railways pay China Road.
Yes.
And then after that, they
Yes.
send the same to China Exim Bank.
Yes.
And then China Exim Bank pays
The 90%.
the 90%
Correct.
to China Road and Bridge Construction.
Correct.
Total.
Yes.
Okay. In total, you say that
Our 10% contribution.
our 10% contribution should have been 47.5 billion shillings.
Correct.
We ended up paying 644 billion shillings. That's what
Correct.
you find in the books.
Correct.
The books of the National Treasury.
Yes.
And Exim Bank paid China Road how much?
$5 billion.
$5 billion. 500 billion shillings, let's say.
Roughly.
For roughly that.
Different exchange rates.
So then $500 billion should have been a 90% contribution.
Yes.
644 billion shillings, 500 billion shillings should have been a 90% contribution.
Yes.
644 billion shillings should have been a 10% contribution.
Yes.
Now, simple mathematics,
Yes.
644 is more than 500.
Correct.
There's no way 644 can be a 10% contribution
Correct.
in Mchango,
Correct.
and 500 billion is a 90% contribution to the same Harambe.
Correct. Correct.
Are you sure, Jimmy? Are you sure that we paid 644 billion? Because if we indeed paid 644 billion, then we are the ones who paid 90%.
No, we didn't pay 90%. We paid over 100%.
Essentially,
Over 100%.
Essentially, it means we could have built this railway without that money.
Yes. We didn't need a loan.
Without Exim Bank.
Yes.
We didn't need it. If we could fork out
In
that
fact, we
amount.
could have built it all the way to Kisumu without a loan.
Is it captured elsewhere in the Auditor General's report
No.
of those years?
No.
644 billion
No.
shillings.
No. Well, it
How
is.
come?
It is self-raising finance. It's put there self-raising finance. As
And-
I keep telling you,
and the total
people
is
are not doing the math. You just need to calculate.
So in
I'll
the
give you all the documents
in
if
the
you want
Auditor
them.
General's reports,
Yes.
if you do the total,
Yes.
from the Auditor General's reports, 644 billion will appear
Yes.
as our self-raising
Yes,
finance.
I will show you. You'll see it very clearly. I've got zip files. I'll give them to you.
Does-
These are documents, and we made sure we have downloaded them. This is just simple math. People are not doing math here. We have a big problem. Simple math, and you're asking why we have problems. You're asking why we have problems. We are saying conservatively, over 700 billion shillings has been put in somebody's pocket. You see this expressway, it cost about 100 billion shillings.
Yeah, should have been 8.
When I look at it, right, because it's a PPP by China Road and Bridge,
Yeah.
guaranteed by Kenyans.
Yes.
That is just money laundering of our money.
How?
But if you have been paid over 700 billion above your cost,
You need to bring it back.
you just
into
bring
the
it back to
system.
wash it.
What did you just
And
say?
you legitimize it.
You've connected the two now.
Yes. You wash it.
A step back. I want to be very sure. This
Eric,
644.
Please, sorry.
Okay, you ask me.
Wait. This 644, let's say that the 644, right? Remove the 10% from that 644. Oh, you're not?
No, why?
Okay. 644 on its own.
Is 10% is what is
Supposed to be.
supposed to be.
It's what it's supposed to
I'll
be,
tell you the
47.5
wording
billion.
exactly from the National Treasury.
Okay.
National Treasury grant, Kenya Airways, self-raising finance
Okay.
contribution.
Understood.
That's all.
The 10%. Got it. Now, what you're saying is that this money has found its way round to yet another project that was overpaid in Kenya, and that's a way to launder.
In
this
fact,
money
it
that
hasn't
was
been
paid?
overpaid. You see, for this expressway, we never paid from our shillings. We only paid our shillings, our tax revenue, paid for what were called some of the works down there. I don't know. NMS was doing some works,
3 billion.
which was also looted to a very large extent, according to the numbers we are seeing. But the actual construction of the expressway, right, was so-called an investment by China Road and Bridge,
to be recouped.
estimated
in
at about
27
100
years.
billion shillings, to be recouped over 20-something
27
years.
27 years.
What you may not know is that it's also guaranteed by the Kenya government,
Yeah.
right?
If we don't use the road, our taxes pay.
Pay.
Okay.
Now, here we go. 100 billion is, if you've made 700 billion, what is 100 billion? Yeah, now you're cleaning it. Are we together? Are we on the same page, Do?
We are.
Okay, good. Now, this, you see, unless you understand the concept of all this as a massive crime scene of monies that are unimaginable to most of us, okay, you will not get to the crux of this problem. If you think it's an issue of the president flying to France like he's going this week, and that's a big thing because he's using money, that's nothing. That is nothing. We have a very big problem here. And it's a problem loaded on us, right, of so-called a shortage that we are not going to envisage for the next 60 years that we are carrying today. Right? It is slavery around our necks.
So
Okay?
why-
We will never come out of this.
I hear what you're
I've now given you just 2 examples.
Yeah. And okay, obviously,
All right?
you've given us two
I gave
examples.
you Eurobond.
Yeah.
I've given you this, and we are still trying to cover the 6.5.
And obviously, from what you're saying,
We're not there yet.
Jimmy, then there's a possibility that there are other things like this.
Oh, very many. No, we have them all.
We have to hit 6.5 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at some point.
We've
you
only
know.
done like a billion.
Yes.
1.6 now.
Yes.
The question is, when you're telling us these things, they're hitting us in the face, blow after blow. But then I have to ask that why has this not come out before? Why has it not come out with the details, that you're giving? Because I would, if anybody were in a position of the legislature, for example, who is supposed to be asking these questions once they've been flagged by these 2 offices of the COP and the AG, Auditor General, and would ask these questions as per where did this money go? The legislature then is the one who's supposed to pick up the baton and say, excuse me, where is this going? So why have we not heard this? Why is it not being exposed? Because this is exposure par excellence in terms of what is exactly happening.
The one thing that I think you must also not avoid is your also as the media's responsibility in this. We can blame Parliament. The Kenyan public choose those parliamentarians, so they should blame themselves, not the parliamentarians. We elect a president. We should blame ourselves because he didn't do his homework and he's telling us now he can't meet his promises. We have constitutional office holder called the Auditor General and the Controller of Budget. The Controller of Budget I watched last week before the Dialogue Committee in Yakango is somebody who is crying for help. You could see she's crying for help. She's singing. I mean, who knows how many offices he has not sung in. Who knows who is not visiting her office and telling her, you better just sign this thing.
She is telling
This thing may sweep you long before you do whatever. She is crying for help, even media help, and you don't get it. The only thing you get out of all she said was she's talking about her salary being twice, because maybe that's all you understand. Her salary being posted twice. That is not the problem. It's nothing. The big problem is what she said. We are fulizing to go and drink at the bar. She's crying for help. And even the media is not listening. So I think we all need, as Kenyans, to take responsibility. Right? We can't shove it to one side or the other. We must take responsibility, because this pain is going to continue. It is not ending. And let me give it graphically, because this is another figure I would have liked to have brought up earlier. Graphically to our lives going forward. Because of so much money going to debt. Every time our exchange rate is dropping, the same COB has said, 1 shilling increases debt by 40 billion shillings. Drop. A shilling drop. 40 billion. That is never going to end. It's increasing by the day. On top of that, just to show you how it directly comes to our lives, with something called mafuta. Mafuta. One of the things that CT's friend brought up was a formula called LC for the purchase of mafuta. I know he's CT's friend. Right? Said, in order to stop the slide of the shilling, right? There is this big demand for mafuta dollars every month, $500 billion that goes out.
Yeah.
Right? We have now done what is called credit facility forward, 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? So after 6 months, we pay. The greatest thing about that CT is that at least we can sort of predict the fuel price. Right? Because I can tell you it has now very little to do with the spot price. Right? So what we took in March at a spot price of $82, right? The shilling was at 127. We are paying in September. The spot price was 80. It had gone down. But the fuel price increased to us at the pump. Why? Because of the exchange loss.
Yeah.
All right? So in September, the shilling was 153. Not 153, sorry. In
September.
In March,
It was
March it was 139. Now, yes, this is actually from EPRA. EPRA had estimated in September. You guys are busy talking about 150 now. EPRA, if you see its sheet that it brought out on price changes, they estimated the dollar at 153. Right? That's a difference of 13.64. That is taken to us at the pump. All right? Okay? The following month, we are paying April. The dollar was 138. The estimated in October we are paying April, 6 months. So March to September, April, October, right? May, November, Munaona?
Yeah.
Mpaka March next year. Then we've taken a new contract, right? So March next year, April next year, we'll be paying what we have taken in September this year. You look at the exchange rate variation. So you can estimate the appreciation every month. All right? Are we together, City? Okay? Because the dollar exchange loss is passed on to us at the pump. Okay? So it was 211, right? Because of exchange loss, it goes to 222. They said they're giving us stabilization, came to 217.
17.
All right? Higher. What do you think is going to be this month? This month, we are paying what we took in May. In May, the dollar was at 141. The estimate this month is that in November, when we come to pay, I think next week, it's going to be at 159. All right? That's a difference of 17.86.
To the dollar.
To the dollar. The pump price is 217. It'll be interesting to see how they maneuver away from a price of 230. All right? And you can extrapolate this all the way until September next year. So mambo ya mafuta, okay, is sealed until September next year. And people are crying about mafuta. All I can tell you is that it will keep appreciating.
It will go up.
It will keep going up every single month. Mpaka it will reach 300 and beyond. So when Moses Kuria said every month, every 10 shillings, he was even being conservative. And why is our shilling dropping?
Quote my friend again.
Why is our shilling dropping? Where is all our money going?
So why is it dropping?
Where is all our money going?
To paying debt?
Yes,
It is.
we're not producing.
Well, at 70%,
Yes.
in terms of everything
We're
you
not
get,
producing.
70% goes towards the payments of debt.
Correct.
If we look at the latest numbers, and we're looking at about 15% then going towards recurrent expenditure.
Correct.
And then we only have about 12% left that's then supposed to go towards everything else that the country needs.
Including county.
Absolutely.
Of these debts, of what percentage are domestic?
50%. 56% here. But no, 54. We're under. Now it's 56%.
As for 54.
Yeah.
And that one is denominated in Kenya shillings.
Yes.
But the other 46 is what's killing us because it's dominated on the dollar.
Yes. But of that, right, it's not the bilateral ones,
The commercial.
commercial ones. These trade and development
What are
companies are
these,
5
12,
billion.
18?
5 billion. Yeah, those are crazy. Those 5 billion, the Euro bonds, those are the ones killing us. Those ones, high interest rate, high rate, those are the ones killing us. If you look at what came from the bilaterals, World Bank, IMF, and so on, it's, those are affordable. Those are probably about 12%. Those are affordable. It's these others that were taken, we don't know what they went for.
This percent.
We don't know what they went for.
The big commercial ones.
Yes.
The moment you're dealing with the billions, even if someone said 2%, it's a lot of money. The
Correct.
moment you do digits, you're talking 10.
Correct.
It's a colossal amount
Correct.
of money.
Correct. It's this. You see, we are paying a loan and we funded the project from our pocket and beyond. This is the problem.
I'm still stuck on that, Jimmy. We have paid 644 billion
From our pocket,
shillings
from taxes.
our taxes
Yes.
towards SGR.
Yes. For a construction of 475 billion.
We even paid more,
Yes.
and yet we still took a loan of 5 billion.
Yes.
For what?
This money, 644, would have taken the rail, even with all this elaborate building, all the way to Malaba, to Kisumu and Malaba, with our money. We didn't even need a loan. I was doing it for 55, but I was not going up in the sky. Right? That's what I'm trying to say. If we do not address this massive theft, this crime scene called the Treasury, I can assure you, there's no amount of taxes, there's no amount of beating us on our heads that is going to solve this. There's no stabilization, because I hear the government say, we have stabilized. They've stabilized nothing. Look at the exchange rate. Look at cost of living. There's nothing stable here. Look at debt, taking more debt. If they were stable, why would they be taking double the debt that Uhuru even took last year? Right. They've not stabilized anything.
The question is going to come at you, Jimmy, and I think also necessary for you to clarify, is that would you go into digging all of this had you been the one who got the contract to then be able to do this work? Then we would not have heard about any other uncovering of anything that might be going on in government.
You see, the key thing you need to understand is that I am a businessman. A businessman, right, does not operate on the basis of theft. That's criminality, right? So you look at return. I had done a project that was pure business, right? We are investing. I'm not taking tax revenue, right? I'm taking an asset, right, under a project called PPP, enhancing it in a partnership. Kenya Railways, you own this valuable land, right? Come and be a shareholder. We are investing. We even had a company that was going to do the rolling stock and the management. And I was seeing a return. It was like a real estate project, right? You build and you just sit back and enjoy the rent coming in. For the next, and 7.5 years, I had a return. No tax revenue, but I create greater efficiency.
Sure.
Right? At the time we were talking, only 3% of cargo was going by rail on RVR. Everybody was on the roads. Now we were going to provide something cheaper, okay, more efficient, and get traffic back on the rail, cargo traffic. That's what we were doing, right? Cheaper than roads.
So
We were coming in cheaper.
by the time these two contracts were being signed in 2012,
Yes.
your project was still
No,
online.
when this was being signed, is when I told, is by the time this was being done, I had told China Road and Bridge, I want nothing to do with this. This can't work. If you look at our feasibility study, which I've got here, it was all about a private project. Now it has been turned into a government project. This can't work. You can't do the feasibility, technical, and then come to do the contracts. The government didn't even do its own feasibility study. I said, this is just a whitewash. It will never pass any bar of recognition. It won't pass a court, won't pass what. And that's what the Court of Appeal said. How do you do all this? It's contrary to, I can't remember the section in the Constitution, that you do a project in inception, right, to everything, and then say, here is the bill. It's like your contractor, right? It's like your contractor telling you, I'm buying the land for you, I'm building the house for you, I'm the BQ, I'm the quantity surveyor, I'm the one who signed all the certificates, I'm the architect, right? Here's the bill. And you have no other way of checking. That's what happened here.
Hey, Jimmy. Okay. You just go.
City, what is it? You look
Send
tired.
us those documents. We need to look at those documents. Share those documents that you've said you have, Jimmy. All right? And then, let everybody look at them. And then have a conversation again. But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.